It is families like ours who are paying to make Donald Trump's friends richer. And I want to be really clear about why we are in this situation. It is because Republicans caved to Donald Trump, but it is also because Democrats failed to have a hard conversation about age. 3 Democrats in the House of Representatives died in the last few months alone. One of them was my member of Congress. Nobody was voting on behalf of me and hundreds of thousands of our constituents, neighbors, friends, family.
Is it time for a generational shift in Congress? 25-year-old Deja Foxx and her nearly 400,000 TikTok followers in Arizona say yes. Welcome to the Sanity Podcast, everybody. I'm Dave Briggs. Alisyn Camerata coming up in just a bit. Why now might be the perfect time for the first ever Gen Z woman in Congress. We'll talk to Deja Foxx about her special election, traditional media versus social media. She'll help define some key Gen Z slang terms for us old folks. But first, why now is the time and why she is the right person to go to Congress. Deja Foxx, great to have you with us here on the Sanity Podcast. So you graduated college about a year ago. Why is now the time at 25 to vote you into Congress?
That's right. I was the first in my family to go to college. I got a full ride to Columbia University, where I graduated in 2023. But I was not born on a path to college or a path to Congress. I was raised by a single mom here in Tucson, where I'm now running in a special election coming up fast, July 15th. And we relied on social services like Section 8 to keep a roof over our head, SNAP benefits to put dinner on the table, or Medicaid so I could go to the doctors when I was sick. And it is those very same things that Donald Trump has put in his crosshairs. And I believe that families like mine, single moms like the ones that raised me, right, kids like I once was, deserve people in power who are focused on making their lives a little easier, not any harder.
And Deja, tell me, I think that your personal story is so fascinating. You obviously overcame tons of challenges through your own grit and because you had those services and resources available to you. So when you see the Republican big budget bill, what would that mean to your families like yours?
I mean, it is cruel beyond belief, right? They are trying to take food off of the tables of our most vulnerable families, strip healthcare away from millions of people, close Planned Parenthood centers, most of which are actually in states where abortion is legal and protected, all to line pockets of their billionaire friends. That is the trade-off we are making. It is families like ours who are paying to make Donald Trump's friends richer. And I want to be really clear about why we are in this situation. It is because Republicans caved to Donald Trump, but it is also because Democrats failed to have a hard conversation about age. 3 Democrats in the House of Representatives died in the last few months alone. One of them was my member of Congress. Nobody was voting on behalf of me and hundreds of thousands of our constituents, neighbors, friends, family. Nobody was fighting for us under one of the most cruel and quick moving administrations in history. And so it is because of those vacancies that we handed the GOP an advantage, right? And that's an unforced error by our party. And it is because we failed to have a hard conversation about age.
I do want to follow up on a number of things there, so apologies. Your opening statement, you used the terminology Trump in the crosshairs. That is terminology most people are steering clear of, in particular what happened in Arizona with Gabby Giffords. But also Democrats, you can address that. And are Democrats just too old?
Yeah, I mean, my very first political memory was this act of political violence that you're talking about. The shooting of our Congresswoman, Gabby Giffords. She was my Congresswoman when I was growing up, if that's what you're referring to, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was in elementary school when that happened. I remember it clearly. I remember waiting in line when Obama came to speak with my mom to go to the Together We Thrive rally. And it had a lasting impact on me. I've had the opportunity to interview Gabby Giffords, Mark Kelly in the years following. But it is a lesson learned in so many ways. We've seen political violence under Donald Trump. The dial turned up, right? Even
but then shouldn't you stay away from terms like crosshairs if it was a lesson learned?
I mean, I think our language matters, and I'll take that feedback, but it is that serious. This is a matter of life or death for families like mine who will not have access to health care or food, right? And these are targeted attacks by Donald Trump on families like ours. They're not coincidental. He doesn't care if families like mine are able to go to the doctors when they're sick, right? Or if they have food on the tables, the most basic things they need, not just to thrive, but I mean to survive. And so it is that serious. This is a matter of life or death for people. And I'll share a story. We hosted a Medicaid roundtable in my living room, an intimate setting. And I spoke with a young woman who shared that she is the eldest immigrant daughter, right? She holds a lot of responsibility in her family. And when her mom was diagnosed with cancer, they had to choose between making the bills or delaying care for her mother, right? And they chose to delay care to cover the bills that month. And she lost her mother to that cancer. And these are the stories, life and death, that are going to be all too common in our neighborhoods, in our families, if Donald Trump gets his way and millions of Americans across this country lose access to care, to their health care. And so it is a matter of life or death here. And it is not with a flippancy that I say that. It is informed by the fact that I've had conversations right here in my own living room with people in my district who will be impacted.
Deja, that's really interesting. And that brings up a point that I wanted to ask you, because for the people that you're not talking to face on the campaign trail, in your own living room, at your campaign rallies, how are you getting your message out? Because Dave and I are dinosaurs from the Stone Age of cable news. And that's where that's the medium that we know best. But your generation doesn't watch cable news, but you need to reach all voters. So how are you getting the message out?
Yeah, for the last 10 years, I've been working as an activist and an advocate for reproductive rights. And my first viral video was when I was 16 years old. It was after Donald Trump had been elected the first time. He was pushing Republicans to defund Planned Parenthood centers here in Arizona, where I got care when I had no money, no parents, and no insurance. And I left with the birth control I needed to take control of my body and my future. And my Republican senator at the time, Jeff Flake, had voted to defund Planned Parenthood centers, strip millions of people of Title X funding, myself included. And I showed up to his town hall and I asked why he, as a middle-aged white man, was making those decisions about me and my body when he decided to avoid his constituents at our meetings, right, at his office. And he told me that he supported policies that support the American dream. I asked him why he would deny me the American dream if birth control was helping me to be successful, to be the first in my family to go to college. And I woke up the next day and millions of people had seen the video. It put me, a 16-year-old girl working at a gas station, experiencing homelessness, living with my boyfriend and his family out of need, on even footing in the public discourse with a United States senator. And I took that lesson with me over the last decade as I have asked the question, how do we build narrative and political power for the people most affected by these policies? And I am taking it into this run now. I'm running against somebody with a legacy last name who inherited her dad, the former congressman's fundraising list. I'm running against another Democrat who takes corporate PAC money. We don't have either of those advantages. We are running a campaign funded 99% by small dollar donors. 99% of our donors are small dollar donors and an average contribution of less than $28. It is a different way of doing politics, and it's made possible by our ability to reach people at scale who are interested in a new generation of working class leaders in DC.
Clearly, you are getting the word out via social media. Almost 400,000 followers on TikTok, a huge presence.
Showing your age a little bit now, Dave.
Yeah, showing my age every day, Deja. That's how you get the news out. Where do you get your news from, you and your generation? Because as Alisyn mentioned, her and I are just a bit older than you. Where does your generation get your news? Will you ever watch it on television?
39% of adults in the US under 30 get their news on TikTok. And that is an entire group of people that the Democrats, frankly, are losing. We saw it in the 2024 election as young people sat it out, felt apathetic, or swung to the other side. And it is because we are failing to platform strong messengers who can compete with the far right and MAGA extremists on platforms like TikTok. And we are doing that uniquely on this campaign. It's a testament to the ways that if elected, I would build the bench of leadership in this Democratic Party, right? Add to our strengths. In just the last 30 days, we've accumulated more than 30 million views on our campaign content. And that has everything to do with good storytelling, smart digital strategy, and reading the room, knowing that people are hungry for a change candidate all across the country, from big cities like New York on down to the small border towns and cities and rural areas we visit, like Bisbee and Ajo and Nogales and San Luis here in our district.
Deja, I want to get your take on a Politico article that I just read, but it's from about 3 months ago. And they basically said that Gen Z is the most gullible generation, which, believe me, Dave and I take issue with this finding. But I want to get your take on it because their thought was that because you guys have been so subsumed by the algorithm and misinformation online, that it has made your generation super gullible to what it sees on, say, social media or, any social media, really. Do you find that? I mean, obviously you're not, but do you find that when you talk to your peers?
I think it's a symptom of a larger problem that our media ecosystem is failing to keep up with the infrastructure being built around us, right? It's not realistic to expect young people to get their news behind paywalls. So many young people don't even have a TV in their homes, right? The landscape has changed. They are getting their news by and large on their phones, on social media platforms. And that's not just true for young people, right? I think we can all bring to mind maybe a grandparent who's seeing something on Facebook that we know is absolutely not true, but they saw it there and it looks like a realistic headline. And so, in fact, I think young people have something to teach older generations about the platforms that we grew up on.